Dr. Marc Faber, the author of the Gloom, Boom, and Doom report, is not one to hide his feelings about the Federal Reserve. That's why we decided to ask him here at the New Orleans Investment Conference where he's speaking to comment about the Fed's announcement coming up next week.
Well, I mean, there is a lot of speculation about the Federal Reserve's QE2 and the size of it. But in my opinion, if I were Mr. Bernanke, and as I said before, I would resign, but in absence of doing that, I would probably rather disappoint the market initially to see how the markets react, because there are now more and more voices that are skeptical of monetization of assets in the United States. So maybe a slightly disappointing QE2 would lead to some correction, a strengthening US dollar, temporary, a correction in precious metals, correction in the S&P 500 and in emerging economies. And then as the S&P would drop, say, 5–10%, the Fed could then come in with QE2 enlargement, or QE3, QE4, QE5, QE6, whatever they want to do. But initially, I think they'll be a little bit careful about how far they go. So I think the market may actually be somewhat disappointed. Interest rates, they are either positive in real terms, which means that you have an interest rate structure that is higher than the cost of living increases or a broad measure of inflation. Or you have interest rates like in the 70s that were consistently below the rate of inflation, and that then creates additional inflationary pressures. And we have essentially interest rates in most countries in the world that are below the rate of inflation. And this is, of course, asset price friendly and friendly for commodity price. I mean, the last big gold bubble occurred between 1970 and 1980, in a period during which real interest rates were negative, whereas after 1980, real interest rates until recently were always positive, specifically until year 2000. Well, I don't think it will have a huge impact, but it's certainly not a positive impact in my view. But I think also gradually Americans will realize that it's a necessity to have money outside the United States to remain free. Because in the US, everything will be controlled, and the 1099 does not only affect people who buy and sell gold, but any kind of small businessman.
For Kitco News, I'm Daniela Cambone. Stay tuned to Kitco.com for more conference coverage.